today's China Truths.
Over the past decade, China has repeatedly paid a painful price for its growing number of tofu dreg dams, massive structures built with shortcuts, fake materials, and corrupt supervision. Each summer brings fresh reminders: collapsed reservoirs that sweep away entire villages, sudden failures of hillside retention dams that unleash deadly mudflows, and bursting spillways that flood farmlands and cities overnight. In Inner Mongolia, the 2022 Yihetan Reservoir breach destroyed bridges and submerged downstream towns within minutes. Earlier, the Guangxi Yangshan Dam failure sent a wall of water crashing through homes as residents fled in panic. These disasters were not natural accidents, but man-made tragedies, proof of what happens when critical infrastructure is built like disposable tofu. And now, as China heads into 2025 with record-breaking rainfall patterns and rising upstream water pressure, fears grow that the next major catastrophe will not come from typhoons alone, but from a chain reaction of tofu dreg dams failing or being forced to release enormous flood volumes. Emergency discharges have already flooded large regions in previous years. With climate extremes intensifying, a single structural weak point could turn into a nationwide flooding crisis. Amid these concerns, another warning sign has emerged in Fujian. The lower reservoir of the Yongan Pumped Storage Power Station, one of the province's flagship projects, was recently exposed for severe shoddy construction. Despite its massive 7.5 billion yuan budget, workers revealed that many anchor piles meant to stabilize the dam were built only 1/3 or even 1/5 of the required length. Some piles weren't grouted at all. Others were simply spot-welded to fake compliance on paper. Insiders estimate that only about 30% of the piles meet design standards. What shocked the public most was not only the negligence, but the system behind it. The design unit, construction unit, and supervision unit all belong to the same parent corporation. Videos even showed supervisors partying with contractors instead of enforcing safety rules. Online outrage exploded. A mega project that is supposed to operate for a century is now built like a backyard chicken pen, one commenter wrote. Local authorities have since launched investigations, but public trust is already shaken. When basics like steel bars, concrete, and welds are compromised, people downstream know exactly what's at stake. If a tofu dreg dam collapses, it is never just property that is lost. It's human lives. As China faces intensifying rains, aging reservoirs, and rushed megaprojects, citizens fear that the next disaster will not be caused by nature, but by the hidden rot inside the nation's infrastructure. And if another wave of emergency dam discharges or structural failures hits in 2025, the consequences could dwarf previous tragedies. In recent years, China has witnessed a record number of reservoirs and dams collapsing, cracking, or failing under pressure. Internal reports once admitted that more than 3,000 small and medium-sized dams were in dangerous condition, many of which collapsed after just one heavy rainfall. Towns downstream were often given no warning, leaving residents trapped as walls of water swept away homes and lives within minutes. Each disaster exposes a deeper truth. Corruption has hollowed out the entire construction system. Materials were substituted, inspections were faked, and supervisors were bribed into silence. When a tofu dreg dam collapses, it is never a natural disaster. It is a man-made tragedy born from greed. The true damage caused by these dam failures far exceeds official statistics. Across southern rural regions, fields that once fed entire communities have turned into swamps after consecutive dam collapses during the rainy seasons. Roads were destroyed, electricity grids failed, and drinking water systems were swept away, forcing millions to live for weeks without basic services. Hydrology experts say most dams built during China's investment boom followed the same pattern: built fast, inspected loosely, and abandoned afterward. Some projects don't even have complete technical documentation, making post-disaster investigations nearly impossible. And every step of this chain points back to the same root cause: Systemic corruption. Many regions now face a deadly cycle: weak dams, dam collapse, emergency reconstruction, funds siphoned off, another collapse the following year. In some provinces, residents bitterly call these structures two-season dams: one season to build, the next to collapse. When disasters strike, officials routinely blame a once-in-a-century rainfall, but locals know these excuses are meant to cover up years of negligence. Several dam failures have crippled downstream flood control systems, allowing waters to spread far beyond projected zones. Every time the floods recede, more evidence appears that these tragedies stem not from nature, but from an infrastructure system rotting from within. Even China's own experts admit that thousands of dams built between the 1990s and 2010s pose serious safety risks. Substandard concrete, reduced steel reinforcement, weak foundations, and missing waterproofing layers have turned many of these structures into giant time bombs. Some dams begin showing cracks after only 2 or 3 hours of heavy rain. Scenes of residents fleeing in the dark, holding children, carrying elderly parents, wading through rising waters, have become tragically common during monsoon season. And the question remains, how many more disasters must occur before China's era of tofu dreg dams finally comes to an end? This is not construction. This is a slow-motion disaster unfolding in broad daylight. What you're looking at isn't steel, but a skeleton rotting under the sun for 3 long years. The metal is so brittle that a single kick can break it like stale bread. The protective coating? Completely gone. What remains is rusted powder pretending to be structural support. Yet these same materials are being used to build homes, bridges, schools, and public facilities that millions rely on every single day. This is no longer a warning sign. This is a ticking national emergency. And then comes the most unbelievable part. Steel that claims to be eco-friendly bursts into flames with a tiny spark. Flames run along the bars as if gasoline were poured over them. This isn't steel. It's a fire hazard packaged as innovation. Across China, this tofu dreg engineering has become standard practice. Shortcuts rewarded, safety dismissed, and quality left to die. What we're witnessing is not an isolated incident, but a full-scale collapse of construction ethics. The massive Hong Kong blaze was supposed to be a rare tragedy, but netizens exposed an even darker truth. Instead of using Hong Kong's certified fire-resistant hackers safety netting, the contractor opted for cheaper mainland-certified products that ignited instantly. One reckless, cost-saving decision set off a firestorm that stunned the entire world. Under the reality of one country, one system, Hong Kong is now suffering the consequences of substandard imports slipping through a corrupted supply chain. Further investigations revealed that Hong Yip, the construction company behind the project, indeed used low-grade safety nets approved by mainland authorities. The resulting fire was so intense that even Hong Kong firefighters couldn't believe what they were facing. Wherever the CCP's industrial influence lands, corruption follows. Inferior materials replace quality ones, profit replaces ethics, and Hong Kong is now trapped inside this deteriorating ecosystem. Many fear this was not the last tragedy, only the first. In mainland China, none of this surprises anyone. Non-flame retardant nets, brittle steel, hollow bricks, and fraudulent materials have become disturbingly common. Behind Hong Kong's glossy skyline is a tightly controlled construction monopoly where safety is secondary and profit is king. Even steel has become a political commodity manipulated by interest groups instead of engineers. The consequences of these choices are now exploding into global view. Here's the cruel irony. Mainland steel factories earn only 30 to 50 RMB per ton, barely enough to survive. Meanwhile, Hong Kong middlemen take the exact same steel, add stamps and paperwork, and resell it for 10 times the profit. Hong Kong needs over 2 million tons of building steel annually, yet its local supply covers barely 1/3. The rest comes from mainland factories forced to fight for market access. 4 companies under Hong Kong's Steel Bar Supply Bureau control every single ton of steel that enters the city. Without their approval, even top-quality mainland steel is blocked. This creates a bizarre system where mainland factories carry all the costs, labor, and risk, while Hong Kong's private firms sit comfortably, approve documents, and pocket massive profits. This is a supply chain built for greed, not for public safety. But the horror stories don't stop at steel. When workers cut open a bridge pier, sand poured out like an avalanche. People believed the core would be solid brick, but inside was nothing but loose sand. At another site, builders stuffed dry soil into pillars, smeared mud on top, added a thin layer of brick, and declared it reinforced. A single kick exposed the entire scam. How long could such a structure survive? Years, months, or only until the next storm? Residential buildings tell an even more chilling story. One man lightly tapped a rooftop stone slab, and it shattered in his hands. Inside was nothing but foam. Whole floors were filled with these hollow stones, brittle enough to crumble between fingers. This isn't construction. It's a mask, a cheap illusion hiding catastrophic structural failures. Foam-filled walls, bubble-layer bricks, hollow ceilings that echo when tapped. These materials fail every engineering standard in existence, yet they are used in high-rise apartments, staircases, exterior walls, and even load-bearing beams. Families are living inside time bombs, where one typhoon, one earthquake, or one strong gust of wind could tear entire facades clean off. The danger is silent, invisible, and everywhere. Across China, infrastructure is collapsing at terrifying speeds. Drainage ditches are made by slapping a thin mix of mud and water onto the ground. Highways barely 2 years old have steps crumbling, stone panels shattering, and guardrails falling apart. Bridges spill chunks of concrete like peeling skin. From afar, everything looks modern and stable, until someone kicks the surface and it collapses instantly. The rot is deep, widespread, and accelerating. Even new high-rise apartments, ones on the 20th or 30th floors, are cracking open. Walls split, ceilings sound hollow, and bricks crumble into dust at the lightest touch.
Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. We will keep reporting on the COVID surge in China, so don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell to get the latest videos. And thank you for tuning in.